Hey, what's up? This is Václav. It's Home Assistant's Year of the Voice. And whilst I was preparing for a video where I'm going to be configuring this ESP32 S3 box as a voice assistant, understanding my native Czech language, I was struggling a little bit with a number of things not working. And I figured that it needs a little bit of improvement and deserves a little bit of love. So I did that, and I have learned a lot of things, and I had a lot of fun. So I wanted to share this journey with you to help you to improve the voice capabilities specific to your needs, and hopefully show you how you can contribute to the Home Assistant community. So it will work naturally, not only for you, but also for the others. So here is how it works. So I'm going to cover two things in here. First thing is how you can configure your custom sentences, something that works only for you, that is specific to your home, that will run specific unique actions. And in the second part, we're going to be talking about universal intents, how you can create universal intents, modify them, change them, or even better, improve them and contribute them to the Home Assistant community. So now I'm going to be talking about the first part, your custom sentences, and I'm going to be brief there. I'd like to focus on the second part. Now, before we start, I'd like to give you a couple of tools. And the first one is I'd like to show you the documentation. Now, why am I making video and asking you to read documentation, right? This is pointless. Well, not really. I'm kind of the same. I don't like to read long text. I rather watch some video or try things and intuitively trying to figure things out. In this case, documentation is quite useful. It's also quite brief and concise. So I would like to show it to you, and I would strongly recommend or even ask you to start there, because you can find lots of references in there which you're going to be using. So how to get there? First, for the custom sentences, go to the webpage www.home-assistant.io. This is the Home Assistant main webpage. You know it, I'm sure. And then under documentation, go to Voice Assistant. There's lots of information in here, even some videos. And we're looking on the right column into custom sentences. And here it is. There's prerequisites. We're not gonna touch that. This is where they describe how to get different devices on the Android companion application, or you can use some of those satellites we're gonna be talking about in the next one. So let's just skip that. And then there are two ways to add custom sentences into Home Assistant. First is through automations. This is what we're gonna be addressing in this first part. Or you could also have custom sentences configured in configuration.yaml, where you save them in a special directory, custom sentences. And the syntax is very similar. In fact, it's the same as the format that is used by the core intents, which we're going to be addressing in the second part of this video. So I'm not going to be talking about this one. I'm going to be showing you first the automations, which is pretty cool and pretty simple. And then we're going to go to the intents. So automations is described in here. Go to automations, say trigger sentences, and then you can add your actions, and you can even say that you like to have a custom response. So let's do that. I have my Home Assistant in here. So let's go to settings, automation and scenes. I'm going to get this one out of the way. Create an automation. Create new automation, and then add a trigger. In here, I'll go to add the triggers, scroll down, and I will go into sentences. And in here, I will write, how are you, in Czech, jak se máš. So this is a Czech sentence saying, how are you? We should write it without question marks, all lowercase. It's actually better. We can add other sentences in here as well. Now, there's a condition. We're going to skip that. And then we can add an action. And in here, I can, for example, turn on the light behind me. Makes no sense, but let's do that. So I'm going to say light, turn on, and I'm going to select the light in the office in here. There you go. So it's gonna turn on the light. And then next action, I'm going to say other actions. And in here, set conversation response. I'll say Mom's fine. I'm okay. Thanks. And let's save it. And let's call it test. Save. So when I say Jak se máš, it'll turn on the light and it will say, I'm fine, thank you. Let's try it. I have the this little guy in here. So let's try. Okay, Nabu. Jak se máš?
Mám se fajn. Díky.
So that was easy enough. Now I have to figure out how to turn off the light behind me. There you go. That was not hard. So that was the first part. And you can play with that. You can add your sentences. You can add your automations. And I think it's pretty useful. As you see, it works even in Czech. I made it a little bit more complicated. It's easier in English. So that's the first part. The second part, it's a little bit more complex. How do you contribute to the Home Assistant community? So again, I'm going to give you a tool, documentation. So if you go to developers.homeassistant.io, or home-assistant.io, this is a page for developers, so now you're going to be developer. But don't worry, we're not going to be doing any programming, no Python, no JavaScript. But you will need to understand how to use GitHub a little bit. I'm going to show you that today, and you will need to understand how YAML works. So this is not for everyone, but if you'd like to get involved, please do so, because this is going to help us to make Home Assistant better. So how do we get there? So this is the Home Assistant for developers. Again, there is a menu, and there you go to voice. There we can skip this part in here, and you can go to intent recognition. And then there is this whole section from introduction through sentence syntax, which is most frequently used page I was referring to, about tests, supported languages, and how you can contribute, and the style guide. So I'm gonna be showing you how to contribute. It's well described in here, how you do it in a GitHub and how you can post it in there. But I like to draw your attention to these supported languages. So here it shows very nice progress per language if I click on that. On this page we see all the languages supported by the Home Assistant. So we see all the languages and the different intents. So I'm gonna get to those in a second. And the ones which are in green, it means that they support all the different intents. So all of them, full line green. Then there are some red blocks, means that this intent has not been implemented. And the one which are partially implemented, which means that some of the intents are implemented, but some are missing, like the Czech language, they are in white. And our goal for today is to turn this line into green. So this is what we'd like to achieve today. And then the goal for this whole, or the reason for this whole training, is that you can then go on and pick your languages that you speak, that you need, that you use, and you can turn those into green as well, or maybe not completely into green, but at least improve some intents that are useful for you. It could be done gradually, or you can improve on even some of those which are in green already. So this is the current status. Coming back to this page, there are some contributing sentences. So they're basically explaining the file structure of the directory we're going to be looking at. So mainly we're going to be looking at sentences, and we're going to be looking at tests. So these are two important directories. We're going to be also looking at the responses, which is an additional one, which we will need to fix. They say that once we contribute, we need to run the tests. And they're saying if they want to add new language which is not even there, I think they're basically saying you can approach people on Discord and they're gonna help you. There is this whole how-to guide, how to contribute. So it explains in here how you can open the CodeSpace workflow, how you can locate those files, how you can create this main branch, and so on. This is what we're gonna go today through in our video. So all of those things which are in there, I'm gonna walk you through that. So this is what's coming up next. Then, so there's the languages, there is the responses. They talk about the Jinja templates, but don't worry about those. We're not gonna go that deep. Tests, we're gonna go through tests. And then there is this template sentence syntax, and I'm gonna explain that in the examples we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be talking about those sentences, structure of this file. We're going to be looking at the sentence template syntax. I'm going to touch base on the common file, and then I will explain those lists as well. But everything is explained here. So I recommend watch this video, but if you don't understand what I'm talking about, because I'm going to be talking about quite a lot of technical. So I suggest that when you don't understand, you just pause the video, you read this, and then you come back to the video. And if you don't still understand the video, don't worry, because we're gonna be using it actually, and you will actually, I hope, understand that from the way how we use that. So let's get started. Let's go to the GitHub and let's fire it up. So all the language files used by the Home Assistant voice assistants are stored on a GitHub in a repository Home Assistant intents. You can find it on this URL. So it's github.com/homeassistant/intents. So if you want to create or modify some existing, they call intents, or create new ones, we need to make the changes here. And if you want to do that, we need to first create an account on GitHub if you don't have one. So we will go into the github.com, and in here we'll say sign up. It'll say welcome to GitHub. Let's begin. We will enter our email address and we will start from there. We can use, if you have existing Google account, for example, we can use that, or we can create a new account with a password and so on. So I'm not going to walk you through that because it's pretty straightforward. So once we have a account created, then I'm already signed on under my name. So we can start proposing the changes, but we can't obviously just go ahead and edit the files. I mean, if we would allow anyone on the internet just to create an account and start changing Home Assistant, it will break very fast. So the GitHub is using a functionality or tool called Git. That's why it's called GitHub. And they use a function of Git called pull request for people to propose changes. So if I click on this tab, pull requests, there's a queue of all the waiting or proposed pull requests that are currently waiting for review and for approval. So for example, if I check this one is ready. It passed all the tests. There is a description of what this thing is proposing. So these are all the different changes. We can review it like that. And currently everything passed, and we're waiting for the owner or person responsible for this language, which is this person in here, reviewer, to do their review and then approve this pull requests and confirm what is called merge. So they will merge those changes with the code that is stored in this code tab, and that will become part of the code base. And once upon a time, they make what's called release so they compile it and into a library that is then used by the Home Assistant, refer to it there. So this pull request has this green tick mark, meaning that it passed all the tests. So what are the tests? When someone creates a pull request, there are some automated tests that are running, and if you look at this test, for example, it has a red cross, meaning that some of the checks didn't pass. If I go in there, this reviewer is not going to even look at it. He's going to wait for this person, or maybe help this person to fix it. And once this is fixed and they change the pull request, then it will run the test automatically again. Everything is going to be green and they can carry on. Right now it says that some checks were not successful. They can go into details, but we're not going to do that because we're going to be running those tests as part of developing those changes. This is part of this whole process of making those changes, running the tests, and making sure that they're fine before creating the pull request. So we don't have to create pull request and then checking it there and trial error. This is not how it works. We will do it as part of doing the change, and I'm going to show you that. So how do we create the pull request? So I'm going to go back to this code page, and if I would like to make change, I would need to do to copy this whole repository into my own account under GitHub. And this is done by something called forking. So I would normally I would click here on a fork, and it would create a repository that would be called myname/intents, and I can do changes there. And once I'm happy with those, I can then create pull requests and copy them or send them to this main repository and to this main branch. There are branches in here. This one is main, and there are some other branches, but I'm going to talk about it in a second when we do our change. This is the first thing we will need to do. We will need to create a new branch. We can do fork, but if we would do fork just like that, we would then have to go to our account in a GitHub, and to do the changes, there are some tools that are not really required, but good to have to make those changes. To edit the YAML file, it's good to have Visual Studio Code or some editor that could understand the syntax of YAML file. But more importantly, we would like to run those tests. And for that, we need to have a Docker installed and configured and whatnot. And do be too difficult and unnecessary. There's an easier way. And the easier way is we will, under this green button, if you open it, you might be on this local tab. But we will click on this code spaces, and we will create a code space of this main branch. And what it's going to do is it's going to, on a GitHub page, it's going to create a container, Docker container. This is essentially the same thing what runs Home Assistant, but this time it's not going to run Home Assistant, but it's going to run Visual Studio Code, our development environment. So it's currently creating this our own code space. So it's going to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to wait. I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to get back once this is ready. So now it looks like it's ready. It opened the Visual Studio Code, but it's still running. It's still setting up the Visual Studio. So we will wait a few more seconds, and I will show you when we can start. See, it's conveniently opened a README file that contains references to different manuals that can be useful for the development, and it's still running some commands in here, so I'm going to wait for those to finish. I will get rid of my picture in here. I can ignore this one. This is not really important. And looks like we are ready now. So we have this command in here, and So we're currently running in this code spaces, and there's some random name that it created. Doesn't really matter what it's called. So we're basically running on a remote instance of Visual Studio Code. So this is not running on our computer. It's running somewhere in a cloud, and I'm seeing it through the web browser. And here you see the main. So this is the main branch, and first thing we need to do is we need to create a new branch. So I'm gonna click on this main, and here it'll open a window. I'll say create new branch, and I'll call it something. Let's say we will create new vacuum cleaner. So let's call it vacuum cleaner. So I could call it this way, but it has to be one word. So I will put dash in the middle and hit enter. So we will create a new branch of the code, and it will make a copy of this main branch into our own branch called vacuum cleaner. As you can see here, we are switched to this one. So now we are ready to start making changes. So there is this button in here where there's an explorer where we can go through those directories, and I'm gonna briefly show you what's in there. And then once we're done with our changes, we will go into this tab, which is called source control. This is basically control for our GitHub instance. And from here, we can publish this branch. So first, let's go to the Explorer. And one of the important things is if you want to make multiple changes, it's a very good idea to always make only one change. So if you want to change, for example, vacuum cleaners, and then we would like to change lights, and then we would like to change presence or something like that, that we always make one change, make everything ready, test it, make a commit, and I will show you how it's done. And then we can go on the next one and next one. And when we're done with all the changes, each of them is going to be in a separate commit. And then once we're done with that, then we can create a pull request, right? Now, it looks like I'm talking foreign language, but you will get it very soon. You will understand what commit is and what pull request is. And I'm not expert in Git either. I have learned that because I wanted to contribute to this project. I'm not a developer. This is not my job. But I understand it, and I'm pretty sure you will get it as well. So let's look at this Explorer. I think there are three important directories here that we need to understand. I think the most important we're going to be working with is this sentences, where you have all of those sentences that are recognized by the voice assistant. They are sorted in different directories by language. So I would like to, I'm not going to make any changes into English, but I'm going to open it and show you how it looks like, the syntax of the file. Now, if you go to this documentation in here, they describe those intents that are there. So there are those intents that are called has turn on, has turn off, has get state, and then also they say what are the slots that are used by those intents. So this is something which is used in here. You'll see there's this has turn on. So there's a language, which is English. Then there is intents, which is always there because these are intents. And then there is has turn on and all the rest. And if you're going to be modifying something, you don't have to worry too much about this format because you're going to be pretty much just changing this text in blue and try not to break anything which is here in green. So let me explain how those sentences work. So we have 3 sentences in here. So any of those sentences is going to trigger this has turn on intent. And the syntax of this sentence is there is a string that contains, in this case, something in those angle brackets. And if I look at the manual in here, if I come back to here, intent recognition, there is this template syntax. And in here it's very well described that I can have some text in round brackets, square brackets, curly brackets, or those angle brackets. The one in the angle brackets, they're called expansion rules, which means that it's going to look somewhere to expand it in something. There is some more inside. And where do we look? So either it could be written here as an expansion rule somewhere here in the text. And if not, there is this file called _common. And in here, there are all the expansion rules. Typically at the end, there are expansion rules and there is this name. So if we have a name in angle brackets, it's the same as if we would have this text in there. So it's the same as if you would have the in the square brackets and then name in the curly brackets. And coming back to this template, square brackets mean it's a optional word, which means that it's either there or it's not, doesn't matter. And you can have more variants, so it could be this or that. So either this or that or nothing. Or in this case, it could be light or lights, plural or singular. So this is what the square bracket means. Curly brackets, it's slot lists. So remember I was, when I was looking at the intents, built-in intents, it was always showing the different slots. So for has turn on, it gives the device name, area, domain, which could be light, or switch, or anything we can turn on. And it could have also device class, so we can refer to those. So this is what's inside the curly brackets. We could also have a list defined in here. So these are all the different lists. So in a curly brackets, we can refer to a color, and it will then look at one of those values. So you don't have to remember it now, but once I refer to it, you will know that if I say color, it's defined in here. So in English, it's some of those colors. If I would look at Spanish, Italian, Czech, it won't be white, black, red, but it will be color, but in a different language. So finishing up square brackets, curly brackets, angle brackets, and then we can have a round bracket, which means it's one off. So it's either red or green or blue. So it's very similar to this, but here it could be this or that or nothing, but in here it will always be one of those. So for example, here it'll be turned or turning, but it won't be turn. If I wanted to have turn as one of the options, I would put square brackets in here. Here I'm saying it's either red or green or blue, but one of those is going to be definitely. So these are the brackets. I think important thing to understand. So we were in Home Assistant turn on. So now you understand the sentence, I think. So we're saying turn on, and turn is in angle brackets, so it's an expansion rule. So let's look what it means. Turn, it's either turn or switch or change. So we can say turn on, switch on, or change. If we say change, we probably wouldn't say change on. Turn on, and then we can say one off because it's a round bracket. We can either say area, which means bedroom, light, or we can say light in area. And area, it's again angle brackets. So if we go into the common, it says the or not, and then area, which is in a curly bracket. So I know it's a lot, but once you get used to it, you will understand the sentences. So it's turn on bedroom light, or turn on light in the bedroom. This is what the first sentence will catch. The second variant will say turn, but it's optional, so it doesn't have to be there. Turn bedroom light on, or turn bedroom light to on. So those sentences are written sort of as a puzzle. You can have different variants, different options. Not all of them do necessarily need to make sense, but you need to make sure that you capture all the different variants. How could you say that? If you would miss some, it will mean that if you say something in your language, it will say, I do not understand, because probably you didn't include it in one of those sentences. So this is, I think, once you understand that, you're halfway there. So we have this one as a general turn on for anything that could be turned on. So for lights, switches, and so on. But then there is exclude context. So it's basically saying that it will work for anything except for binary sender, except for cover, except for lock, and so on. Because for those, I have a separate context defined here. So if I look at the cover, I have a cover turn on in here. So this one is gonna only work for the cover. So if I look at this again, there's a language English intent has turn on. So that's the one because we opened the turn on file. Sentences, and instead of turn on, we say open. Open cover in bedroom. And it could be the bedroom because it's in the angle brackets, and we know that the expansion rule contains the optional the word. And here it says requires context cover. So this one only works for the cover because this is what it says. And the domain cover, it's related to the name. Let me explain. If I open this has turn on for the lights, there's some additional details for the lights. There is a scenario where I could say turn. We know what turn is, right? Switch on, turn on. So turn on, and then we have the bedroom light, and then there is something called light devices. In here there is expansion rule that is saying light devices, it's light, lights, or light switches, or switches, or switch. So here we're basically saying word light or any of those other words in here. So this is basically additional variants to the universal Home Assistant has turn on, specific to the lights, because we are calling the light devices. And again, it's saying that this name, which is the device name, has to be from the domain light. But then we have some other sentences that are not referring to the name of the entity light. So turn on all lights in the bedroom. We are saying the word light. Again, coming on the expansion rule, light is the light, lights, or lightning. We are not calling any specific light. So we cannot say that we require that this entity is of the domain light, because we don't talk about any specific entity. But here we are saying there is a slot which is from the domain light, which means that it will actually automatically add in all the lights from that area. And then there is one more. This is very specific. We are not even saying any area. We are basically saying turn on all the lights, or turn on the lights. And what the voice assistant is gonna do in this case, the voice assistant understand in which area the what's called satellite, the ESP32, with this device, it will be registered, for example, in the bedroom. And if I say that, it will then take the area of this device, and by saying this required content area slot true, it will upgrade this area of this satellite device into the slot for those sentences. So it will basically turn into similar sentence as this one, except we don't have to say the area. It will basically take the one from the satellite. So if we'll say turn on all the lights, or turn on the lights, turn lights on, any of those, it will turn on all the lights that are in the same room as we are, because we're speaking to this device. So this is how it's done. So now you pretty much got a lot of complex flavors. Here we have sentences that are referring to a light as a device. Here we have sentences that are talking about all the lights in a specific area. And here we have sentences that are not even mentioning the area, and they take the area from the satellite device. So, that was a lot. And we only spoke about has turn on, but if I look at turn off, it's essentially all the same, except on it says off. There is one more thing which I have missed, which is this response. And it says response lights area, or here it doesn't say anything, it's using default response in this case. Where are those responses defined? What does it mean, response? There is this directory called responses, and again, same directory structure. And if I look in there, if I look at has turn on, then there is the default one. It says turned on the, and then there is some state.domain, so it'll be, for example, light, turn on the light, or turn on the switch. But specifically for the lights, we have this lights area. It says turned on the lights. So this is the one that was used for the area. So it will not say turn on the light, but it will say turn on the lights in plural, because it turned on all the lights in the area. So this is where it gets the response. And there are some more sophisticated ones. For example, for the weather, there are some Jinja template basically that is basically saying what's the weather and translating it. But if I would go into this, it will be I think too long video. So we're not gonna go into template. I don't expect you to start changing those Jinja templates in here. So let's stay with the simple ones. So this is the theory. This is how the sentences look like. Now I'm gonna show you two things. We could either review and change something. Typically what we would do is in our own language, we would just go in and add one sentence in there, something which is not recognized, or we can create a own file with intents for a one device or one intent that is currently not defined yet. So we will probably do the second one, which is a little bit more complicated, but this is what we're gonna do. One more thing before we do that, I spoke about the tests. So there is a directory called tests in here. Again, same deal, same files. So here we have for English, for each of those essentially files, there is a test file, which is basically saying, so for example, for the lights, let's first go to the Home Assistant turn on. There are some test cases. So it says it's language English, but there's no intents, there is tests, and then there are some few actual sentences. It's saying turn on ceiling fan. So it will run this test, it will say turn on ceiling fan. There is, for the intent, it's basically saying use the turn on intent, and for the slot name, use the ceiling fan. So this is a device called ceiling fan, and it expects response turned on the fan. If it runs it, and if it gets this response, it means everything worked and recognizes it recognized the sentence and everything worked fine. How does it know the ceiling fan? There is something called fixtures, and in here, if I just search, there is a ceiling fan, which is a fan.ceiling device, and it's called ceiling fan, and it's in the area living room. So if I would then go to this, go to those sentences, and I will go to this Home Assistant turn on. what I could do is I can click on this hamburger menu, go into terminal, run task, and I can say run. If I do run all the tests, it will run all the tests for all the languages. It's gonna take a long time. I could run it for the current language, and we will be doing it before we make the commit. But I can run it for the current file. So in here, it will run the tests, and it'll see that it tested the intents, and it passed the tests. Everything is green, everything is fine, everything works. Obviously, because otherwise it wouldn't be in the main branch. But our goal is when we make our changes, we don't break it. It still works when we finished. Right, so now that we understand the sentences, including the common, we understand the tests, we understand the responses, we can start making our changes. So let's do that. I'm going to go to this documentation in here, and there is a tab supported languages, and there is this nice progress report. Let's look at that. And I need to contribute in my own native language. I'm not supposed to use dictionary and contribute to some language I don't speak natively. So Czech is my native language, so let's do that. And if you look at that, all of the intents are currently white. 2 of them are red, means missing, which is vacuum cleaner start, vacuum cleaner return to base. Which is why we have called this branch vacuum cleaner, because I checked that before. And I left that for this tutorial. So let's do that. So first I go to the sentences, and I will need to add vacuum cleaner intent into this CS directory. But I'm not gonna create it, I'm gonna steal it from English. So I'm gonna just go, there is a vacuum cleaner here in English, those 2 files. I'm gonna just right click and say copy. And then I'm gonna go to Czech directory, and then I'm gonna paste. Thank you very much. I need to make a few changes. In here I will say I'd like to, it's gonna be CS language, this one as well. And what are the sentences to trigger the vacuum cleaner? So I can say spust. So I will switch into Czech keyboard and say spust, or so how would I say it? So this name is going to be vacuum cleaner vysavač. So spust, or it could be without the S. So I could put S in the brackets. I could also say, so I will put it in the brackets, nastartuj, and this is another possibility. So it could be spust or nastartuj. Let's call it. I think we can change that anytime. If any of you Czech speaking has some other ideas, you can always let me know, and I can add that. So that's this. And for return to base, we will say return is brať vysavač, and it's gonna be na základnu, or it could be domů. So na základnu means to the base, domů means home. I think I could say one of those 2 things. So now we need to do the tests. So I will do the same stealing. I'm gonna go to English, take vacuum cleaner, there you go, those 2, Command C, go to Czech, Command V, and here I have to say those sentences. So first of all, they are in Czech, and brať vysavač na základnu. Let's say that. and it's called, I call it vysavač. So I have to fix this this fixture, and here it's gonna be vrací se, so this is gonna be a response that we need to add. So I need to add the responses. So responses, again, English, vacuum cleaner, copy, steal it, paste, CS, vrací se, and I think I can, and then here CS, not VS, CS, come on. Spuštěno. Let's call it that. So coming back to those tests, if it's gonna be start, the return is gonna be spuštěno, it's gonna be vysavač, and it'll say spusť vysavač. What were the sentences again? Spusť, nastartuj. Yeah. There's T missing. Let's put the second one there just to cover both variants. Right, so we're almost done. The only thing is we're missing this fixture. So we go to this English fixtures, and I know the vacuum cleaner is the last one because I checked before. So here we need to go to the fixtures in here, and it's gonna be called vysavač, and the rest we can leave. So I think we are done, except those two errors that I put there in here. Maybe you can see them already. So let's run the test. Terminal, and I will say run task, run test for the current file, and it says no, there is incorrect language in the tests. Okay, so this is not the error I meant. In this file, this is currently in red. I forgot to change the language to CS. So back to the files, terminal, run task, test for the current file. But you saw it pretty much told us what's wrong. And now it says there is an error, and it says that it's missing expansion rule name. So this name it doesn't know. Why is that? Because in English we have this expansion rule name, which could be the name or name without the member. In Czech we don't say that, we don't have those. We have other complications in Czech, but this is not one of them. So in Czech there is no expansion rule for name. So we need to fix that in those sentences. What we need to do is we need to change change this to the curly bracket, and the same in here. Come on, I didn't want to do that. Right, so now if I run the test for the current file, it should run, and we're good. And I can run it for the other file as well. But what I'm gonna do instead, I'm gonna run it for. I'm not gonna do all tests, but I'm gonna do all tests for the current language just to make sure we didn't break anything. So it's doing all the different tests for all the entities, for all the intents, and it passed 75 tests, basically saying we are fine, we are ready, we can commit. So we're almost there, so this is good. So we can now go to this source control, and we have all of those changes in here, and we can commit them. Now, if I would change multiple intents, what I could do is I can go to each, I could separate them and create different commits, one for each intent, and I could do it by hitting this plus and staging those changes, and then when I do commit, it will, and then I will here put a message that I'm committing change for the vacuum cleaner, for example, and I can just select the files that are related to it, and then I make another commit for the other changes. I'm not gonna do that, so I could add all of those files here now, but I don't have to do it. In fact, what I could do is I could just directly go, and I will call here, I will say it CS vacuum cleaner. So I put there some comment for the commit, and here I will just say, well, I will commit it, and it says there are no stage changes, so I didn't put anything in there, but it's asking me, do you want to stage all the changes? And I'm gonna say yes. I could say also always, so it'll then do it all the time. So now I have committed, or I'm committing all the changes to our vacuum cleaner branch. And what I'd like to do now is I like to publish the branch. And I like to publish it. I can't do it into the Home Assistant intents, but I have to do it in our, what's called origin, to our instance of on our GitHub account. And now it's asking me, do you want to create a pull request for the branch vacuum cleaner? And yes, this is exactly what I want to do, except it disappeared now because I was too late talking to you. So let's see. What we can do here, we can go to our GitHub account, and in here in repositories I see these intents, and from there I can say compare and create a pull request. So it was a little bit more complicated because I missed the window of opportunity. So it's saying that I like to put it from the Brooksy 70, which is my account, intents, branch vacuum cleaner, and I'd like to create a pull request to Home Assistant intent branch main. And it's automatically adding the title vacuum cleaner, and I will just say in CS. Thank you very much. Create pull request. So as you can see now, it created, if I would, now I'm back into this Home Assistant intents, into this list of pull requests. And as a first one, there's this vacuum cleaner, there's my command, there are all the changes that we have created. So we have created those files for the tests, and we made this one change for the fixtures, and currently it's running the tests, so I can check in the details, but it's gonna take a long time, so I'm going to essentially pause the video here, or maybe speed it up. I don't have to watch it, I can just leave it there, because I'm pretty confident that all the tests are gonna run. Here it's going to run the test, so it's building the environment now. Everything running automatically. I don't have to do that, I'm just currently watching it, showing it to you. Normally I wouldn't watch it, because if it fails, it'll send me an email. So now all the tests are finished. So if we go back to the pull request and just refresh the page, it'll be in the expected state that everything is green, and we are just waiting for one of those two guys to review it and then merge it. And hopefully if they do it in time, it's then gonna be part of the next release. And then when the Home Assistant is released, they would then refer to this updated library. So hopefully in the next release or the release after, Home Assistant will understand commands for the vacuum cleaner in the Czech language, and you are part of it now. So now you know, so you can start making Home Assistant better. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.